Welcome. I'm David O'Brien, Braves writer at The Athletic. Sorry we're late. There was some stuff going on with important off the field matters, but never fear. With my co-host, former Braves legendary left-hander Eric O'Flaherty. What's up,
Legend.
Eric?
Not much. How you doing?
Legend in his own time, in his own mind, or something.
Flash in the pan.
Pretty damn good, man. I see Moilo every day, man. Every day now, because I will give him credit for a guy that's starting out in broadcasting. He's getting better in a hurry, but he's always on the field before the games, and you don't see that from a lot of guys. The guys they got now are all on the field. Brandon's down there in bed every day. Yeah, Frenchie's down there, which is good because
the broadcast this year.
It's really good because they know what's going on, And Moilo's just basically doing pre and post. He does some games too, but he does mostly pre and post. But he's over there talking to all the players, and the players all know him and everything. So he's getting really good information. So and Brandon's down there and talks to him constantly. So the broadcast is really good.
It's great.
I've been impressed with it. I watch it when I'm not working. So, all right. Anyway, hell of a week for the Braves homestand. Not to be dampened. It was so good that you lose 6-2 to the Nationals on Sunday afternoon. And you don't even hear all the stuff that you've been hearing early on. Oh, here are the Braves on getaway day game, same shit as last year. You don't even hear that because they were so good all week, and they've been so good on most of these getaway days that none of last year's stuff's really carried over. But it was that was a great homestand. I mean, sure, you'd rather topped it off and swept the entire thing by beating them on Sunday, but that's hard to do, man. That's really hard to do.
Sweep anything. I mean, it's tough, but. There's, we were talking in April about their home record sucking, and it all evens out.
They've turned that around, and they started losing a little bit on the road, whereas early on they had by far the best record in the road in the major leagues. But overall, very encouraging homestand. I thought yesterday Bryce Elder just didn't have a good game. Didn't for him by his standards. He gave up. That was back-to-back starts for him that he struggled a little bit. I want to ask you about that, but. They've come from behind so many times that it was just asking a bit much to expect them to do it once again. They did it literally
every game on the homestand.
They literally did it They did it every game on the homestand, plus the last game of the last road trip Sunday at Arizona. 6 consecutive comeback wins. 3 of those in pretty extraordinary fashion against the Mets, where they were down by at least 3 runs in every game.
Yeah.
So. 7-game winning streak and a 6-game streak of come from behind wins all ended Sunday with a 6-2 loss. Elder loses against the Nats. The Nats, even though they're in last place in the division, this is not nearly a terrible team like, say, the Oakland A's. This is a team that's got some players on it. That little shortstop from Atlanta, Adams, really good player. They got some couple of really good young arms. I mean, they got some decent talent on that team. I mean, the Mets are only 4 games ahead of them with their $360 million payroll.
Yeah.
So it's just a terrific homestand, though. Terrific homestand. I'm going to start with a few facts here. The Braves are 40-25. They're tied with Arizona for best record in the National League. They got a 3.5-game lead in the NL East, though it's not over either of the teams that anyone thought would be in second place. More than 1/3 of the way through the season. Everybody thought this was going to be a 3-way race, and maybe it'll turn out to be, but so far it has not been. Everybody thought it was going to be the Braves, the pennant-winning Phillies, and the huge payrolled Mets. Well, it's not. The Marlins hanging in there, man. Second place, we're over 60, 65 games into the season, and the Marlins are hanging in there, man, at 37-29, and really, they're doing this without Alcantara, too, because he's not pitched nearly like he did last year. They got we saw this last year, all the young pitching that they had, but now they got a couple of good position players, and they were smart. They added some veterans to that mix, too.
Yeah, they're not a bad team. I mean, that guy, I know he's not hitting for power, but Arias, it's in the middle of their lineup.
Yeah, he hit a home run finally yesterday.
Did he? I mean, it just kind of goes back for me to I love the on-base percentage and the walks and good at-bats and everything, but there's nothing like having a guy that just gets knocks.
Dude, he's the closest thing we've had in a while, I think, to Tony Gwynn.
Yeah.
I mean, it reminds me a lot of him.
Yeah,
You
just
know,
wherever it's pitched, he's going that way.
exactly. And he's such a throwback. We don't see any hitters like him in today's game.
Well, you don't even see hitters like him have a chance, honestly. I mean, because what you have to do is hit 350, 400
Yeah.
with the numbers and all the values. I bet his WAR or whatever's not even. I bet there's guys hitting 250 or 225 with higher WAR.
Right.
But
Yeah.
as a pitcher, that's the last guy I want to face in a big situation because he's just going to slap a single and you're giving up a run.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, he hits the ball when it's away. He hits the ball inside. He puts the bat on the ball, man. His bat to ball is incredible. But I mean, going back to what you said, it shows you how much that's valued in today's game. The guy got traded after winning the batting title.
Yeah,
he might win. He's going to win consecutive batting titles probably in both leagues.
Yep.
But yeah, he's impressive. It'd be great to have on a great team too that's got a lot of power. Imagine him with the Braves.
Yeah. Oh man.
And you still wouldn't lead him off because you're not having anybody lead off over Cunha. But
that's the thing. I don't know where I'd hit him in this lineup, but
have another leadoff guy right in the middle of the order. Start leading off maybe again in the seven hole.
Yeah. No, I mean, they are. The Marlins are pretty solid. I think the Mets are still the team that I look at the most of just because of all the talent. But it's just things go on in New York.
Yeah,
that pressure gets the teams and things like this happen.
And the bottom starts to fall out. There starts to be a lot of fissures. And even a guy like Buck Showalter, who was heralded a year ago, oh, he's our manager of the year. He's turned it around. And even I said that, he had changed the ship over there and really gotten everybody on the same page. But winning conceals a lot of things, man. And when you had the pitching that they had for a while last year, it began this year. I think their problems began with Diaz going down in the WBC. I mean,
yes,
that has had such an effect on that bullpen. Other guys trying to fill in at closer as really, and we've seen it here, how it can decimate when a guy's
everybody's got to step up a role and they might not be ready for it.
Let's just say the Braves covered a hell of a lot better for Iglesias being out than the Mets have for Diaz being out.
And Iglesias looks filthy now.
Yep.
He's locked in. He a little shaky when he first came back, but he's looking locked in.
And he's got a fresh arm now, compared to other guys that have already made 30 appearances,
Yep.
Yeah, he looks good. And the other big factor in this homestand that I saw, or a big development I saw in the pen, was Jimenez, who really struggled to get going early in the season because he had the offseason back surgery, which was a scope. It wasn't to cut it open. It was a scope, but it still takes a while to come back from that because you can't do anything for a long period. So the Braves knew he'd had it when they traded for him. And I thought, well, what the hell would you trade for a guy that's not going to be ready? But they obviously felt like he'd be ready by when it counted. And right now he's starting to look really good.
Well, that's the luxury of this team too. Is you can get guys ready early on. There's other teams that can't afford to never throw their best option out there every single time because they're going to be fighting till the end. But this team's so good, you can afford to lose a game or two trying to get a reliever right.
Yeah.
And I know at the end of the year, every game counts, but what you're looking at with this team is you want to be firing on all cylinders August, September, because you're not taking the postseason for granted, but there's a really good chance you're going to be in it. And that's when you want everybody locked.
Yeah. So the Marlins playing above their heads, maybe, or at least playing every bit to their ability, squeezing everything they got out of it. Managerial change obviously was probably at a good time. But the pennant-winning Phillies, they're 32-33, 8 games behind the Braves. They've heated up a little bit in the last 10 or so. And I thought they would, but it's taken a while. The Mets have been one of baseball's major underachievers. 31-35, they're 9.5 games behind the Braves, who we just talked about, have swept them last week. The Mets are only 4 games ahead of the Nats.
Yeah,
4 games ahead of the Nats, man, who are in total rebuild mode.
Yeah, they're not. I don't see them as a threat, but they're not. Like you said, they're not as bad as some teams. They're just
no, they're not like the A's or anything like that. I mean, they got some talent. I mean, when you make trades for when they traded guys away like Soto, you're going to get talent.
Yeah,
some of that's starting to show its head. Brian Kenny had a good stat on MLB Network this morning. He noted the number of postseason teams from a year ago who have sub 500 records right now. It's really astonishing when you think about it. Phillies, Mets, Padres, and Cardinals from the NL. All playoff teams have sub 500 records right now.
The Padres got to be the most surprising.
The Mariners and Guardians in the AL. That's 6 teams, man. And people were bitching about the Braves early on when they were struggling, when they were spinning the wheels a little bit. Look at where the Braves are right now.
I mean, for me, it just shows you how much. I feel like anybody can manage and do these things when things start off well and are going well. But it's just another compliment to Snit that
a culture and the chemistry and Snit and the coaching staff.
It just never seems to eat them up or turn into a thing.
They never have long skids.
That steady Eddie mindset of, we're going to be all right. We're a good team. Never putting pressure on your players. There's certain places where you can tell, and you see it. Teams have these massive drops and fall apart, and everybody's scratching their head and wondering what's going on. But it's the human element. It's guys putting pressure on themselves. It's the vibe in the clubhouse. It's so hard to keep a clubhouse from, just absorbing all that energy, because it's okay as a fan to be up and down, but in the clubhouse, if you start riding those waves and you get caught at the bottom of one of those waves and everybody starts pressing, you just dig yourself a deeper and deeper hole. And then all of a sudden you're at this point in the season, you're still under 500. And it's like, shit, our season, this could be really bad. And it just, that pressure just builds.
Going back to that point, the Braves during this 7-game winning streak, you could go in there. And I went in the clubhouse after every game on the homestand, every win on the homestand, and only one time did it even feel slightly different than the other times, or after a loss.
Yeah.
And that was after the Mets comeback, where they came back from 3 deficits of 3 or more runs. That
was a crazy game. That's a game where you're like, you're going to finish that game and everybody's riding high, because there's a lot of emotions in that one.
And that was where the guys said that was maybe the wildest and greatest of all the comeback wins. And that was the exception, where, otherwise you walk in the post-game clubhouse and the Braves got these lights that they've had for a couple of years now. It's kind of like a disco afterwards. The lights are going around in the thing and they play that, but it's almost like a joke, because they got that going and they got the music going, but they're just walking around like normal. It's like no big deal.
Well, and that's where you want to be. You want to be where that's what we do when you win.
Yeah.
And when you lose, you want to be, you're going to lose some,
And then they turn that off, and so we can do our post-game interviews, and then they just go about their business and they leave. But that's it. You don't hear them yelling in the showers. You don't hear any of the stuff that you maybe hear from a team that's playing beyond their expectations.
They can't believe they're doing what they're doing.
Right.
Yeah.
So they just shrug their shoulders. Got to know when tomorrow. Yeah, we swept them, but we got to know when tomorrow. You can't afford to go out and party all night, So
you have to be that way, because there's too many freaking games.
And the same thing, by the same count, the rare losing skids they've had this year have been 3 or 4 games, and you couldn't tell after those that they were in the middle of a losing skid. Yeah. They're just like, happens. We'll get guys going. We'll get guys going. The Cardinals are 27-39. Think about that, man. In that baseball town with those big crowds, and they had a team. They had the 2 guys that were MVP candidates last year. They had brought Waino back for one more season.
Who's gone though?
Oh, I know. I think they're seeing how much a guy like Yadier Molina can mean to a team.
Yep. I mean, that's your quarterback, that guy behind the plate.
Yeah. It's huge. It's huge. And I think it's why the Braves stress so much having another veteran catcher here who regardless of who, because like when Darno got hurt, when Darno got hurt and missed about 3+ weeks with a concussion, Contreras, great bat, they love him, good young catcher and all that. Can you imagine if they did not had Murphy here doing what he was doing when Darno was out? I mean, Contreras would have had to catch every day. If it wasn't him, it would have been Trump in there. Yeah. And it's like, with this young staff, especially with these rookies have had to break in, the prospects and the rotation, because their starters have maintained in the top 5-10 in the league all throughout this whole thing. And that's a huge part because of the catchers calling games for these guys.
And then you get to the bullpen, I'll admit it. I didn't shake in my entire time in Atlanta, because they just let Ross and B-Mac caddy for me. But then I went out to Oakland and I had to kind of take charge of that, and I didn't know how. Yeah, I could just show up on cruise control And when you get especially younger relievers or guys that haven't been in big situations, it's unavoidable that they're going to be. And you need somebody smart back there to kind of walk them through it and get them through it and know what their strengths are and what to do, because you look to the catcher in those situations, especially when you're young.
And that's what Smith-Shawver said, man. He said he makes his debut the other day. He's 20 years old. The kid was in high school 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Just graduating from high school. Pitched 110 innings in the minors. Didn't start pitching until after his junior year in high school.
Yep.
None of that travel ball, none of that pitching since he was 10 years old, none of that. And he's pitching in a major league game the other day. But he's got Sean Murphy behind the plate calling the signals and or giving him signals, and he's not shaking off anything. And even though his velo was down, and he said, and I asked him about it after the game. He said, "I'm trying to fill up the zone, man." He goes, "I know if I walk the yard, we don't have a chance to win." So he was maybe he didn't even realize that he's taking a little bit off to try and throw strikes, but it worked because he went 5 1/3 innings. The kid only gave up 3 singles, 3 hits. All of them were like below 80 miles an hour. He had 2 bloops and a ground ball. That was it. That's all the hits he gave up. So he had a hell of a start, even though people were expecting him to throw 99 and get
strike out 10. Yeah.
Right. It doesn't matter, man. I mean, that'll come. As Snit said, it's all in there. He's just got to catch his breath, relax, breathe.
Yeah.
So the next start, I think you'll see the tick, what we saw in the minor leagues, because it's not like the minor leagues or it was not accurate when we said he throws 97. He does. He throws 96, 98. And he's look at his minor league stats, or even look at his bullpen appearance against Arizona in his debut. He's throwing 97. So I think this next start, we'll see a lot more him as far as the velo. But I think it was encouraging that he's able to get those results throwing 94, 95.
I'd rather see that in somebody's first start than them show up with their best stuff and do well, because I want to see how they pitch when they're not when they don't have their A game. And, he definitely battled through that. And I was glad Snit said what he said, because I looked at the highlights. I wasn't able to watch the whole thing, but I saw him just moving faster earlier. Like he looked a little sped up in his delivery, and that happens.
Yeah.
I think it's one thing to come out of the pen when you're a starter and the game's where it's at. But when you make that first start, the whole day's about you.
Yeah.
You got the whole day to build it up. You're amped up. Your adrenaline's there. And this is your first major league start, and if you're a starter, that's what you're looking forward to. But I just saw him. It looked like he was sped up a little bit. And a lot of times you lose velocity when you're sped up because you're getting into positions too early, so your timing's off. And Snit said what he said, he's got to breathe and relax and just get settled in. That tells me he saw the same thing I did, where it's like, all right, he's feeling some adrenaline. He's a little out of whack with his timing of his delivery, but still to be able to, I saw him hanging a lot of breaking balls again. To be able to have that kind of start when you're searching for it, and not locked in, and still get through, because it's talked about because he didn't have any strikeouts. It's talked about like, oh, this wasn't impressive, but that's more impressive to me to be able to pitch without it than to be able to show up with it and have a good outing.
Yeah. I mean, and not only was the day built up, but it really been built up all week. Once it was clear he was going to start. Then he's got to get his parents flying in from Texas. It's like, and this is a kid he's 20, and you could tell he's 20 at times. I mean, he hasn't been through all this before, none of this.
Yeah.
So this is a kid that was an A-ball a few weeks ago. A-ball.
Yeah. And you don't have time to learn these lessons in 2 years.
I mean, he's got maybe one guy asking him questions after a few occasional game, but otherwise doesn't even have anybody interviewing him after games.
In the minors?
In low A.
Some guy comes by once in a while doing a piece on prospects or something, and you give him one quote. I mean, it's a big difference of an entire week of everybody knowing you're starting, and day game, everybody's looking at you. The night before, you got to talk about your start tomorrow. There's just so much more buildup, and then 30,000, 40,000 fans at first pitch. For minor leagues, you got
40,000. Yeah.
There's nothing going on in the minor leagues. They got dizzy bat race and stuff going on. It's like a clown show. It's nothing close to the major leagues.
He had 2 days because they came back from Arizona and he made his debut Sunday. So when he first got back, he had been called up on the road trip. So and it's a day, and even though he's not starting for another 4 or 5 days, it's the first game of the Mets series. So all the local TV was out there getting, and there's no other sports going. So, they're all getting filler for the night, for that night's news. So we literally surrounded him with like 20 reporters and TV cameras the first day back. And then the day that they announced he's starting the next day, same thing again. So he had 2 of those days. Then his start day, building up. Nobody's messing with him on a start day, but he's got that to think about and all that. His parents are in town and all that. So nothing normal about it at all. And I think this next one, they'll start on the road at Detroit. It's going to be a normal start.
Yeah, and if he just pitches well, he's not going to have that moment again, really, until it's like playoffs or you get so hot that you're a national story. But that first one, for me, when the first time I got to the major leagues, I had 15 microphones in my face and I couldn't even speak. I couldn't even hear myself.
Yeah,
I couldn't even. It's like, what is going on? So there's definitely there's a lot of buildup to it, and I think it affected him, timing wise and effort wise and everything. But still, I mean, you go out and that's a good start. That's a good first major league start.
It really was. I'm just looking at some comments over there, and I agree totally with someone who says, let's see, Robert G said the Padres and Mets are top heavy. The remaining roster pieces are subpar, no depth. Agree totally. They're giving so much money. That's what happens when you give so much money to a few guys. Those guys have got to play and pitch. I'm not saying they have to carry the team, but they've got to at least be steady and be big contributors. Well, they gave $43 million apiece to 2 aging pitchers. Neither one of them who's been healthy the whole season. They pitched a little bit, but not much, and not particularly well when they did. And the other $40 million guy on the Mets team is Lindor, who's having a terrible season offensively. He's in like 215. He's playing great defense, but you're not paying a guy $43 million to play great defense.
Well, as laid back as he seems, I think that pressure in New York's a factor.
Oh my God.
And the contract, it's a lot to live up to.
He has never been the same player since he came from Cleveland. Never.
Just think about how different that environment is.
Yeah. He's one guy good for him, got the money, but his career has never been the same since he went to New York.
He could at some point settle in and be able to let it all go, but it's like every day that you're not the same guy, you got to answer questions about it, and it all just keeps building. So the point turns into a distraction.
Caleb says can't be running guys out there like Matt Carpenter and Daniel Vogelbach. I mean, it's true when you look at Vogelbach out there. Okay, yes, charming and all that, fat guy out there hitting and everything, but come on. I mean, come on. That's a joke that a team's got the largest payroll in history and they got him in the middle of the order or wherever they were sitting the other day. Scherzer and Verlander pitching against the Yankees in Subway Series Tuesday and Wednesday. That's going to be interesting. It's just the Braves. At the time these decisions are made, the Braves take heat for it. But we've talked about how at this station of his career, Alex Anthopoulos has so much confidence in what he's doing. He knows he's doing it right. He knows he's got the right manager and the coaching staff. He'll take that heat and watch guys go away. If the contract is beyond what the Braves are willing to extend a guy for whatever, he'll take heat from the fans. He'll take it from the media, from us. He'll take it from anybody because he knows in his heart of hearts he's making the right decision because he's looking not just at the payroll this year, but the payroll 5 years from now. And when he makes decisions about the with the rotation in mind, he's looking at the guys he has signed for 2025, and it's not that many. And he's not going to allocate too much of the funds to one guy. He's going to make sure he's got some young pitchers that are coming up. He's always looking at those 3-4 years down the line.
Yeah.
And he's not going to commit, $35 million to one player if it means they can't go out and get a couple of young pitchers or whatever. So he's doing it for sustained success, and so far you cannot argue with anything the guy's doing, man.
Especially with letting Dansby go and Arcia turns.
Look at Arcia.
What the hell? There's something, I don't know how maybe they saw that, but it wasn't even talked about that Arcia was going to be their guy.
He was supposed to go into spring training in a battle with Grissom for the job.
Yeah.
Arcia signed that extension. Dude, he's making less over the entire 3-year extension than Dansby's making before the All-Star break.
Yeah. I mean, that's like second year middle reliever ARB money that he's making.
Then Dansby's already made.
Yeah.
And he's playing every bit or better than Dansby.
Yeah,
It's phenomenal. He's been a huge part of their success. It cannot be overstated how big he's played all-star worthy shortstop.
Oh, I didn't see, and that's the thing, is I didn't, just because I hadn't seen him play, Milwaukee, I knew he was a player, but I didn't know he was so solid defensively. I didn't know he had that arm, and I didn't know he's as cool as he is, because there's something about him that he's pretty calm under pressure. And it seems like everybody in the clubhouse loves him, and he's having a good time.
Yeah, they do. They really do. He's as popular as anybody on that team.
Yeah,
with everybody. Great attitude, low-key guy, not all about the team, never does anything to draw attention to himself. Subdued in his interviews, but he's like the high-energy guy like Guillermo Heredia was.
Oh,
that
he is?
Close to it. Yeah. In the clubhouse.
One look in his eyes and tell he's fun to hang out with after the game's over.
The post-game interviews, he's always joking around, always faking, like he's got a fake microphone and all this stuff, but not to draw attention to himself, but to take it off, take the pressure off guys being interviewed, keep everybody laughing. So, it was Charlie. Charlie compared him to Heredia with this personalities, like come to the ballpark every day, whether they're in the lineup or not, they're smiling, you just keep you loose. Everybody wants to talk to him and all that. So,
what's funny about those guys too is that's what the teams that you're seeing, I don't think the Mets have a guy like that.
No.
The teams that you're seeing that underperform, it's so much harder to be that guy and keep it loose and laugh when you're on a 4-game losing streak.
Yep.
And there's guys that are able to do it. They don't ride that roller coaster. They stay calm. They know it's a long season. But this is what so many of those teams need is somebody that isn't wrapped up in what's going on outside the clubhouse and understands how important it is to stay loose.
By the way, the first All-Star voting thing just came out today, like within the last hour. And Sean Murphy is leading all vote getters at catcher in the National League. Freddie Freeman's leading first baseman. Luis Araz is leading second baseman. Arenado, third baseman. You know who the leading vote getter is at shortstop?
Who?
This is going to shock you. Orlando Arcia.
No, good for him.
How about that?
Yeah, that's awesome.
The Braves fan base, man.
I was expecting you to say Trey Turner or somebody with a big name.
The Braves fan base in these last few years with all this national success, World Series and all this, and
they go on vote.
It's such a widespread audience now. It's grown from the hardcores that have been around a long time to a lot of people that just bandwagon fans or casual fans, but everybody knows their players now. They didn't used to know their players like they did, like they knew the Dodger players and all that. They do now. With the prevalence of media, MLB Network and all that, they're always talking about these Braves now.
Well, they're too good to deny. The first year you do something like they've done in Atlanta, it's a cute story.
Yeah.
But when they've been this good, won a World Series, done it year after year after year, whether they're because they're not in LA or New York, it's like you can't not acknowledge them and take yourself seriously as sports media at this point.
Yeah, Lindor is second. Bogarts is third in the shortstop votes. Matt Olson is third in first base behind Freeman and Pete Alonso. Ozzie Albies is second at second base in National League votes behind Araz. And let's see, Sean Murphy by a huge margin over Will Smith. JT Realmuto is way down. And as you would assume, Acuna is first in overall balloting, places all major league players.
Well,
ahead of Ohtani. I mean, this dude's a superstar in every sense of the word. He's playing like it, and he's recognized it, and that's pretty cool to see.
I was showing my son Griffey highlights this morning, because he's starting to get really into baseball, and I was thinking, Acuna's, he's like this generation's Griffey. Yep,
he is. He is, and how much fun he has out there. The flamboyance too is at a next level than Griffey. Griffey wore his
in
cap
a different
backward.
era. It's a different era.
Griffey wore his cap backwards. It was a big deal.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
That used to be a big deal. No, the dude wears his cat backwards.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah, the game's changed a lot. I mean, I don't think it would have been possible for Acuna to be this guy back then. But I wonder who Griffey would be if he was Griffey
you're right.
now.
Yeah, you're right. I think he would be a lot closer to what Acuna is doing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just real quick, 11 starts through May. Bryce Harper had a 1.92 ERA. Bryce Elder.
Yeah.
1.92 ERA. Opponents were slugging 343 against him and at 645 opponents OPS. That's through 11 starts in May. In 2 June starts, we had 56 strikeouts and 19 walks, by the way. 4 homers allowed, 65 innings. 291 BABIP in that stretch. Okay, 2 June starts against the skidding Mets and the last place Nats on this homestand. He has a 7.15 ERA, 500 opponents slugging percentage, 819 opponents OPS, 9 strikeouts, 3 walks, 3 homers allowed, and 11 third innings. BABIP was almost identical, 281 these last 2 to 291 of those first 11. You got any concern about Elder, or is this what's just one of those, hey, guy's going to have a mediocre start or two along the thing? It just so happens he didn't have one in April, May, really.
Yeah, these last 2 starts, watching them, I think it's made sense why Alonso said, please throw that again.
Yeah.
Because that's what he's gotten hurt on. His sliders above the thigh.
Yeah.
And I think that I don't think Alonso was talking shit in the way that it was received. I think it was more like anything but that sinker. I think his sinker's that good, and I think he controls it that well. I think his slider is a good major league pitch, but I think it's got to be down in the zone and played off that sinker. And he's doing hitters a favor when it's in the zone, and that's what he's gotten hurt on.
Yeah, I thought these last 2 starts was more mislocation than anything, and because he leaves stuff up in the zone, and like you said, he doesn't overwhelm hitters with anything velocity wise. I mean, he throws in
dots up with a very high quality sinker,
high 80s, low 90s for almost all his pitches, and he uses both sides of the plate with the sinker and slider when he's going at his best, dotting to both corners at the bottom. Yeah. When he doesn't do that, and like you said, leaving pitches thigh high, they're going to hit him.
But even his sinker is really good. His stuff's tight. His sinker is really good. Even when you miss middle with a sinker, it's such a tough angle for hitters to attack because it's basically a 90-mile-an-hour breaking ball, and it's got some depth to it. Even when he makes mistakes with that pitch, he gets harder ground balls. You know what I mean? But that slider is one that they're able to barrel and actually lift. And that's what's, that inning that blew up on him, he gave up some hits on the sinker, but they were singles. The damage was done on the slider.
Yeah, the 2 sliders in 1 inning against the Mets, 2 2-run homers, both on 2 strike sliders.
Yeah. And I think that's why they were saying, please throw it again. It's more of a compliment to how good his sinker is and how tough that pitch is to do damage on, because that's what hitters want to do. They want to do damage. And the slider's a pitch they can do damage on. I don't think they can do much damage on the sinker unless it's belt away to a lefty or middle away at the belt to a righty.
His 2.69 ERA is still 3rd among qualified starters in the National League behind Stroman's 2.42 and Justin Steele's 2.65. So, I mean, he's having a terrific season, all-star season. Still should make the all-star team unless he has 2 or 3 more starts like that, but so far, I think just a blip, and I think it's exactly what you were just saying. The reason for it, it's a matter of just getting the slider back down where he usually keeps it. That was his first loss of the season on Sunday. He's 4-1. The Braves are 9-4 in his starts this year, which I think is really important. By the way, this was pretty crazy. He had 1 strikeout in 5 1/3 innings Sunday, matched his career low. It's low for the season. Was 1 strikeout. The Jared Schuster had no strikeouts in 5 innings Saturday. Schuster had a game where he had 5 innings, no strikeouts, no walks, which I think says a lot about what Schuster as a pitcher is good, and a lot of good.
Yeah.
Puts a guy, he makes him put it in play, soft contact, lets the defense work. But it was the first time this year on a major league team that 2 starters went 5 or more innings, consecutive starts, and got 1 or no strikeouts. Yeah. First time the Braves have done that since May 2018, 5 years ago. Brandon McCarthy and Matt Whistler did it in consecutive starts at Cincinnati. And how long ago does that seem? Brandon McCarthy and Matt Whistler starting for the Braves.
Might as well be the 80s.
They've come a long way in 5 years.
Yeah. No, I don't think. I mean, it just for me that all just makes me appreciate how good of a pitcher Elder is and how locked in he's been pitch wise. You know, he's been locating and making pitches and competing. You know, that's another thing is that the teams now are that they're more comfortable with a guy that just doesn't have the control and just overwhelms hitters with his stuff because of this. Because when you're a little off, that's when you can give up 2 homers and 5 runs in a hurry because of the approach of hitters now.
Yeah. Man, I'm telling you, I had this conversation with somebody in the press box the other day. The nickname that Soroka has is Maple Maddox, you know, the Canadian thing, obviously. To me, Bryce Elder is the poor man's Maddox.
Yeah.
He pitches like Maddox. I'm not comparing him to Maddox, because Maddox is the greatest pitcher, arguably.
Yeah, you're not comparing. Nobody really compares.
Of the last 40 years, as far as just pitching. But Elder, similar though, the command and the control of those of
movement pitches
to both sides of the plate against righties and lefties. But he's the one that pitches like a poor man's Maddox to me. Elder does, because he doesn't overwhelm anybody. Even though Maddox threw a little harder when he was young, he still did nothing compared to the hard throwers of the day.
Well, and even seeing Elder do so well makes me just want to slap everybody in the face that wants to make the comment that Maddox couldn't pitch in today's game.
Oh my God, yeah.
It's like you're talking like the Tony Gwynn of this guy can do it any era ever. He's so skilled at what he's doing. The stuff doesn't matter, and it's not like his stuff wasn't good. He's making the ball move 2 feet.
Oh my God! You look at it, the highlights, the backdoor sliders of it. Nobody's throwing those pitches today that he threw.
He would eat hitters up.
If anything, Maddox, you could say, might be better today because everybody's throwing harder. He'd be so different, kind of like Elder, so different than what hitters ever see the rest of the week.
Yep. And they'll say, you know, look at the zone he got, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, okay. You don't want him to take it if they're giving it to him.
Right.
If he had to throw this zone, he put the ball wherever he wanted. So if whatever the bottom left corner of that box is, he's dotting it 9 out of 10 times with 5 different pitches. I don't care if the zone was bigger and he was getting calls. You're going to fault him for taking it.
And he's making so many guys chase too, because those pitches look like strikes that he threw for so long until they until they took a turn.
He'd have no issues.
Until they took a left or right turn 20 feet from the plate. Happened again.
Hey, real quick, DOB, can I chime in with a couple of ads?
God damn, dude.
Oh, is it loud? This dumb thing. Why does it do this?
Man.
You came in a little hot there, Cam.
Well, I just changed my mic volume. I don't know why it does that sometimes. Wow. Is that better?
You just blew car speakers out, man. People are listening just like,
let me do some damn ads. Wow. Is it better now?
Yeah, it's better.
Okay, cool. All right. Shout out to our folks over at LinkedIn. Are you struggling to close deals? Cold outreach is wasting the time of both the buyer and seller at every stage, especially when sellers are using shallow and outdated data. Your organization can overcome these challenges with technology that translates comprehensive, high-quality buyer data into real-time insights. These deeper insights empower sales reps and teams to adopt the habits of top performers, which leads to better outcomes. Like more pipeline, higher win rates, and larger deals. We call this deep sales, and we built the first deep sales platform with the next generation of LinkedIn Sales Navigator. Right now, you can try LinkedIn Sales Navigator and get a 60-day free trial at linkedin.com/real23. That is linkedin.com/real23, REAL, and the numbers 23 for a 60-day free trial. Let LinkedIn Sales Navigator help you sell like a superstar today. Just go to linkedin.com/real23 and get started. Also, to our friends Omaha Steaks, David and Eric have received their goodie packages, and David telling me that he's all about it. Eric, I don't know if you've had a chance to try it yet, but there's some good stuff in there from what I understand. And listen, I mean, Father's Day is on Sunday. Like, dads, I don't think they want another tie. They don't want another tool set. They want steak. When you give dad perfectly aged and oh-so-tender steaks, you're not just giving him the best meal of his life, but the chance to grill them up and share the moment with you for a limited time when you go to omahasteaks.com and enter the code REAL, that's REAL, into the search bar that's towards the top of the webpage. You'll be able to order the dad's favorite gift package for just $99.99. Plus, you'll get 8 free Omaha Steaks burgers with your order. These burgers taste like a steak on a bun and are ultra lean and packed with a bold, intense, beefy flavor. You also can save over 60% on Dad's favorite grill pack. You'll get 4 bacon wrapped fillets, 4 premium air chilled boneless chicken breasts, 4 boneless pork chops, 4 gourmet jumbo franks. Gosh, 4 made from scratch caramel apple tartlets and an Omaha Steak
I'm
seasoning.
excited about the Omaha Steak.
I
Man.
know,
Wow.
like there's a lot.
Wow.
I saw an actual commercial on
Woof.
TV for this yesterday, and they were advertising the bacon wrap fillets, and I was like, that looks absolutely
You watched that? You
delicious.
okay in there, Cam?
That's why I have my camera off. 8 free Omaha Steaks burgers as well for only $99.99. Don't wait. Go to omahasteaks.com and type real under the search bar and order the Dad's favorite gift package for Father's Day today. That's omahasteaks.com, keyword real.
As Chris Evans said, slinging mail order meat like a boss.
I saw that too, and it made me laugh. Way to go, Cam.
Oh man,
Great
man,
work.
the steaks are the burgers are awesome too. By the way, fat, juicy burgers, Omaha Steaks. Where were we before Cam blew my eardrums out? Oh yeah. It happened again Sunday. Acuna once again led off the hit. It was single this time. Matt Olson followed with a monster home run onto the roof of the Chop House. Man, that dude, when he hits a towering home run, it's pretty with that swing of his. But in the first inning this season, Matt Olson leads the majors with 8 homers. That's almost half of his total home runs, dude. He's got 17 homers, 8 in the first inning. Matt Olson and Austin Riley. Riley is tied with Aaron Judge for second with 7 homers, first inning homers. So the Braves got 2 of the top 3 first inning home run guys. Riley and Olson are first and second in the majors in first inning RBIs with 17 for Riley, 16 for Olson. I mean, meanwhile, among players with at least 40 at-bats in the first inning, Acuna's second in the majors in first inning OPS at 1253 behind only Aaron Judge at 1371. So this team is jumping out on people like nobody's business with those first 2 or 3 guys. And then they're showing they can come from behind like almost no teams can do, like they just did 6 straight times. That's a pretty good combination to have. And that says a lot about that deep lineup. Hitters at the bottom.
There's quite a few guys on this team that, I look at and I'm like, when they're right, they can hit anybody. And there's like the whole third time through the order thing, but this team beats up on relievers they're seeing for the first time, and they crush any starter in the first inning. So that tells me, especially Riley and Olson are the guys that pop into my head that when they get their swings right, there's nothing you can do.
And Acuna, obviously, but
Acuna, he's in a different.
But he's a freak. He's a different realm.
He doesn't even count for this stuff because he's so good.
It's like McCann used to say. He's playing in the. He's playing with a different stratosphere with the galactic stars, or whatever he used to call it.
That's what B-Mac would say is, people think it's like you go from AAA and you go one level up to the big leagues. No, Acuna is playing at 45A. It's not 4A. If there was a league for just him, there'd have to be 40 more levels past the majors.
Acuna is hitting 475 in the first inning with 10 doubles, 2 homers, 4 walks, only 5 strikeouts, 515 OBP in the first inning. Leads the NL with 7 stolen bases in the first inning.
Good luck getting the 2 strikes starting the game against him.
I mean, and all of those except one, I think, were leadoff because he hit twice in one first inning. I think he had two hits in one first inning. Not surprisingly, the Braves lead the majors with 58 first inning runs. They had 71 all of last season first inning. We're not even halfway through yet. 58. I mean, they are so potent coming out of the gate this year, man. Before that was just Acuna was the guy that, but now it's like you stack him with those guys and people are like, how long is Olson going to hit second? Well, as long as he keeps doing like what they're doing, it's just a great combination. It works. It's just working, man.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you got Olson behind him doing what he's doing in the first and Acuna leading off the game. I mean, it's like jumping into the 3-4 hitters in most lineups.
it's perfect for Olsen and Riley having Acuna as the leadoff guy because he's almost always on base. And you can't even throw a wild pitch because he's going to go to third or score on the wild pitch, but he's usually a lot of times he's going to steal second. He's always a threat to steal. A lot of times he ends up in second because he gets so many doubles.
He might do something crazy too. Like you can't even take your eyes off him between pitches. He might just run to third.
Yeah. Yeah. So he's always on a pitcher's mind, man.
It's just chaos.
A pest more than anybody else in baseball. He really is more than anybody else.
He's a pest that might hit at 450.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you don't get that combination on too many. You never really face guys that are just a pain in the ass if you let him get on base. He might do something crazy. If you pitch to him, he might hit at 470.
One of the more amazing streaks of a year when there's been quite a few of them. He had a run of 10 consecutive home runs over 420 feet.
Yeah.
That's ridiculous. Until he hit one the other day that only went 413.
You missed it.
I mean, that is ridiculous. You would think that'd be the guy that weighs 280 pounds. For the Yankees might do that, but who else? But Aaron Judge doesn't do that. He doesn't hit 10 straight home runs over 420 feet. That's the guy that weighs 205 pounds for the Braves or 200 pounds, whatever he is right now.
Well, Judge will run into one that he misses and insides outs 325 at Yankee Stadium. That's not a homer anywhere else to break his streak. But I mean, he's got the same. I don't know if he has the same power as Judge, but he's got more consistent power.
He's got more power than Judge.
You think so?
I think so.
If they went in a home run derby contest and just let's see who can hit one farther, who's maxing out farther.
Acuna is ridiculous, man.
Yeah,
he's ridiculous.
I won't argue with you too hard on that. It's so hard to believe max power he has more than a guy 6'8", 270.
I know it is. It's ridiculous to even say it.
It's a ridiculous conversation.
He's a ridiculous person. Acuna.
Yeah.
He's just touched by God, dude.
Yeah,
totally.
That's why I don't bring him up in that earlier conversation about we had Riley and Olsen and mechanics and stuff. It's like I think he could make up a new swing tomorrow and still hit a home.
There's just no comparable. There's no comparable. None.
No.
Don't tell me Tatis. He's great player, great talent. He ain't Acuna.
No.
Somebody said you guys got to get Chavo on here. He's right. That's up to you, man. You got to text Jesse and tell him.
Well, he'd probably come on right now.
We got to get him on here. He'll be great. We got to get him on here.
All right.
What else? We got Braves lineup deepest in the NL. I think the Reds are really coming around. By the way, that's going to be interesting when they go there. The Reds, they've got some talent. And that dude they brought up is crazy. They brought up. We might have a comparable to Acuna. We'll see.
I was just thinking that when you said it.
Oh my God!
Yeah, nature.
He's a freak.
But so does O'Neal Cruz.
He is too. O'Neal Cruz is hurt, but he's the other freak. Those two are the freaks that are like 6'7" or whatever. And yeah, but this kid Nelly, he's a stud. Or Ellie, I'm sorry, Ellie.
Yeah.
Ellie, he's a stud. Can throw it like Acuna, hit it that hard. Man.
He's a shortstop?
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw he already has the hardest throw from shortstop. Not that that's a huge deal, but that's still just like these guys that just have these tools that are so extreme. They show up in the first week, they do something nobody's done all year.
I have all these guys come at once too, man. That's something. That's the MLB has got to be just drooling over the fact you've got these athletes, these super athletes that are in baseball now that would normally. That's the kind of athletes you see playing, wide receiver in the NL or in the NFL, or playing a perimeter in the NBA.
Yeah,
so those kind of athletes.
Yeah, 6'7", 240 and moving.
That can fly. God, Ellie can fly. Wow.
That triple he hit, it was either first or third or a triple when it looked like he took 7 total steps from first base to third.
Because he's got those incredibly long strides, yet he's a smooth runner. And he's got the fast twitch on top of having those long strides.
You ever sat courtside at an NBA game or close to it?
Yeah.
The most shocking thing to me when I watched it, it was definitely how big the guys are, but they're going up and down the court and they're not making any noise.
Yeah.
You see a guy that's like 6'5" running, it's loud and there's a lot of commotion to it. You go to an NBA game, the only thing you hear is their sneakers squeaking, but there's no thump. Like these guys are just ridiculously just gifted athletes that they don't even need to touch the ground, it feels like. And that's what, O'Neal Cruz, Ellie, these guys, they all look like that. They look like
Right.
NBA players that got signed up for the wrong sport.
Whereas Mike Trout is like a fullback running out
Yeah.
to first base.
Yeah.
It's like one of the other players said one time, put it great. He said, he's the first person that I could hear running from the outfield. He said he could hear every one of Trout's steps. He's so big and strong and powerful.
Yeah.
And he kicks up so much dirt.
Yeah.
It's like a plow. He can fly. He's like a horse, but he's huge.
Yeah.
He's a huge guy. He's not
He's
gliding.
so much bigger than you think.
He's not gliding like Ellie is.
No, he's putting holes in the ground. It's a Marshawn Lynch.
He's more like Jim Brown running.
Yeah.
Bullpen. The bullpen cannot be overstated, the importance of the bullpen during the winning streak and then during this run they've been on. Bullpen was taking a whole lot of heat, justifiably so for struggling a couple of weeks in May. That was after they had to, you talked about how the effect of being without Raisel Iglesias for all of April. Other people have to close games. Other people have to step up and set up like Dylan Lee. And it works for a while. Those guys handled it great. But you see Dylan Lee get overused. Chavez was overused early on. But at one point, each of them had pitched in like half of the Braves' like first 40 games. Or 39 games. They each had like 20 appearances, something crazy like that. And they were showing some fatigue.
Yeah.
You get Iglesias back. You get those guys back in their role. Dylan Lee's on the IL right now. He'll be back soon enough, though. But those guys are starting to get more comfortable. And you also got, Anderson back off the IL. And Yates had some good appearances. Struggled in a couple lately. But the job they've done, though, with Chavez healthy again, it's been pretty studly this last few weeks. They whittled that ERA down to back in the top 10 in the league or top 10 in the majors.
That's the beauty of what Chavez has done, honestly, is you get into this pinch where somebody's got to step up and it turns into a carousel. It's just one guy after another kind of fails, struggles, and you have to turn it over to the next guy. Nobody's able to really settle in and build confidence. There's not a lot of managers that would hand with Jesse's stuff, hand him the ball in the 8th with the 1-run lead and give him a full inning. But he's the one throwing the ball the best, and you give it to him, and he's thrived with opportunity. But somebody has to step up, and it happened to be him.
Yeah. They got the ERA down to 3.64, by the way, 8th in the majors, which at one point they were about 15th, 16th or so. Meanwhile, what the starters have done without Fried and Wright is remarkable to me.
Yeah.
I mean, cap tip to those guys, Elder being a huge part of that. But their starters, including the openers in those bullpen games, have a 3.84 ERA, the best in the NL, 5th in the majors. That's with Kyle Wright and especially with Max Fried not being factors really since early in the season. They only made 5 starts apiece, so they've done that without those guys. Even their 1.32 WHIP, it's 17th in the majors, but it helps when guys like Elder, Strider, and Morton, and even Schuster are also good at getting out of jams, man.
Yeah.
That's why the whip really hasn't translated to a lot of runs for those guys. They're all so good at it.
I mean, and just on this team in general, how many guys are there that you could say, where would this team be without him? And they're not your stars, because obviously you're in trouble if you lose Acuna or somebody, but you could say, where would this team be without Chavez? What he stepped up and done.
Yeah.
Where would this team be without Elder? What he stepped up and done. And, I go back to it a lot, but I think that a lot of that's the environment of being they're a team that people come to and get better at. They're a team that guys that aren't supposed to do certain things can achieve them and step up in these roles.
Yeah.
But, I mean, what if Arcia sucked? How many times has he come up huge? So that's what's the beauty of this team is there's a lot of guys you weren't counting on that are thriving. And then the vets and the guys you're counting on are doing what they're supposed to.
And a lot of people thought there would be some regression or a correction in like Bryce Elder, because you look at his secondary numbers, the analytics say he should be this good. Okay, but he's still damn good because of what he does. But on the other hand, look what they're doing basically without Harris so far. And now we've seen some few games lately where Harris is doing what he can do.
But that ball, I mean, he's had a tough season luck-wise. That ball that the center fielder caught yesterday.
Right at the wall, on top of the wall.
Scorched.
Yeah, scorched it. Oppo.
Yeah.
So he's really coming around, and the defense is, again, lately been Gold Glove caliber again, making some terrific catches out there. So he's going to have a hell of a lot better last 100 games than he did first 62 games.
There'll be a 2-week period where he carries a team this year, where he comes up in big situations and get big knocks or gets on for Acuna and scores a bunch of runs. But he'll have his moment this season, and you can't tell me his numbers even match close to the way he's been swinging the bat lately.
Right.
He's been swinging it well.
Right. Tonkin's another guy that's been huge for the pen. I know he had a couple of bad games, but look at the other games. He's been huge for that bullpen with those multi-inning ones, especially.
Yeah.
Him and Chavez, when they come in and go, and McHugh, when they come in and go 1 2/3 or 2 innings, I mean, that's just huge. Most teams don't have those kind of guys that can give you those 2 solid innings.
Yeah. And that's why when losing your closer hurts, because some of those guys that are supposed to be your bridge through those moments, you have to hang on to them and put somebody into a situation that kind of exposes them, ask them to go longer than they're supposed to. That's why it's so nice having Iglesias not just healthy, but locked in, and dealing to where you can slot everybody down into easier roles.
Somebody said statistically, analytically, Michael Harris has been the 6th most unlucky player in baseball through 150 PAs. However,
that's measured. That's pretty believable.
Yeah. Ozuna has been a beast, Garrett says. Yes, he has been. And since the end of April, he has been terrific. Has been one of the Braves' 2 or 3 best hitters since the beginning of May. Huge. Yeah, when you look at the bottom half of the order, it's crazy how much contributions they've gotten from the likes of guys that have Ozzy's hit down there a lot. But having Ozuna down there, having Harris when he has big games in there, and having Arcia down there in the bottom half of the year. Arcia's been huge, man.
He's got that clutch gene. He gets better with the game on the line, doesn't put pressure on himself. I expect him to has a good at bat with the game on the line. I expect him to do things when it's crunch time.
Yeah, you just got that feeling when he steps up there. You get the opposite feeling with some guys, you don't think, they're going to the next inning because and then you get the Arcia Darno has a little bit of that too. I don't know, the numbers probably don't say it, but he's got that feeling when he's up there that he's going to put it in play, hit it through the infield, get a run in. He's got that.
You can tell which guys are hoping the guy in front of them takes care of it, and which guys are like, I hope I get up in this situation. He feels like one of those guys that's like, please get to me in the lineup, and then he goes out and he does something. He never looks nervous.
And Ozzy, lately with the left-handed bats, man, left-handed bats. I know the numbers still average and OPS are still much lower, but he's hit some home runs and started
big ones.
Big ones. That one the other night, the walk-off from the left side was crazy. I just saw some quotes that I'd hear from Sean Murphy. We asked him about Smith-Shawver when he did that the other day, that start. And Smith-Shawver said, I'm just trying to fill it up. If I don't fill it up, we don't have a chance to win. If I'm just walking batters. So I think the main focus tonight was just to try to get ahead of hitters. We're asking about the velo being down a little bit. Sean Murphy said at 20, I can't even imagine doing that. I wasn't even close to that at 20. And that's what all the guys basically said. They were looking at themselves. They were either in college in 20 or in the low minors at 20 with no clue, what it would take to succeed in the major leagues.
I got called up at 21, and I was just like starstruck the whole time. I was so overwhelmed by the major leagues until I was about 24, and the numbers showed it. I had the stuff, and I could do it, but the numbers showed that when I got out there, it was just an overwhelming situation for me. Seeing guys you'd seen on TV, all the fans, it was so hard not to get wrapped up in all the chaos around it. I mean, it says a lot about a lot of the guys the Braves have called up maturity-wise, the character they have. Because they've had a lot of guys in their early 20s come up and thrive. And the environment, when I got called up, I was 21. All my teammates had 3 kids. I didn't fit in the clubhouse in any way. And it's like I was treated like a little baby in the clubhouse too.
Right.
I think they come up into this environment and they're welcomed and thrown out there and their confidence gets built.
Yeah. And pitchers, they have Murphy and Darno to work with and Sal Fasano to work with. I mean, I don't even think it can be measured how much better the environment is than some for young pitchers to come up and not be overwhelmed by all this stuff that is not related to the actual pitching. Yeah. All the off the field stuff.
That's the obstacle.
Yeah, they're worried about all this stuff. Am I doing that right? If I got to be here, if I got to be there. And with those guys, they take care of all that for you, make you feel so comfortable. Like you can ask them. You don't have to figure it out yourself. Go, did I do that right? You can ask them. Those guys are all so approachable. Fasano, Darno, and Sean Murphy. They're all such. They want the guy to succeed, and they're going to do everything they can to help a young guy succeed, and not just leave it up to him to feel his way through this thing and wonder if he's doing it right.
Yeah, and having two of those guys, two guys that are pretty established in the game to go to and ask questions. I mean, because the last thing you want to do is ask a question that has an obvious answer to a guy that's been around the game, but then it turns into a clubhouse joke and you're getting ripped on for that.
Right.
It's like you have two guys that you could trust, and really, I mean, that should be the goal for young players. Is just there should be no distractions, and especially pitchers. Is hey, I got this. When your catcher is in that mindset, hey, I got this. Just hit my glove. That's as complicated as we're making it. I know these hitters. I know scouting report. We know your strengths. I've seen your stuff. Just hit my fucking glove. And when you get to that point, that's when you can really deal.
Murphy said it's special when you say he's 20 years old, drafted in 2021. It's impressive. Even his first appearance in Arizona, he looked like he belonged right away. And tonight he proved it. For his first start, he was great. He worked into the sixth. That was more than you could have asked. So there's a lot to build on there. He threw enough strikes and he was missing barrels. Good to see.
Yeah. Yeah, I was impressed because I saw the line, no strikeouts or one strikeout, and thought, all right, I want to watch these highlights and see how we got through that and how he looked.
Snit said he had a few times where it seemed like he was locked in and then he'd get a little bit out of whack. But you know what? He went into the sixth inning. That was huge for us today because this came after the day after the 10-inning walk-off win against the Mets when they had to go 6 innings from relievers. So it made it even bigger that he got into the sixth inning. He said, I thought he handled himself really well. He does a good job of keeping things together.
Yeah. I think that's that, I talked to Cam about this one day off camera, but I think like high school quarterbacks, there's like a glory and focus and attention on them, from an early age. So I think they're always a little better at handling these things than certain other young guys.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, they've had the spotlight on him as a quarterback, as a high school quarterback in Texas. You have the spotlight on you more so than anybody else in any, unless they're like a world-class athlete and one of those weird, crazily successful athletes that's in, the Olympics or in world competitions. But for the average high school kid, being a Texas quarterback is about as much focus.
You're basically in the big leagues.
Yeah. Yeah, you're playing in front of 10, 20,000 people in high school in Texas, at least. So, yeah, it's a pretty big deal. So you are exposed to it at least somewhat, the pressure and all that.
Even out here, Eastern Washington, I was growing up and I'm about to get drafted. Me and the high school quarterback are working at the same store. People would come in and my boss was always trying to pump us up. She'd be like, this is Eric, he might be a first-round pick. He might be getting drafted into MLB baseball. Right. And they'd be like, cool. Where's Waddell? Where's the quarterback? This guy's going to maybe go play at a D3 college or something like that. And he was the celebrity in the town. Everybody wanted to talk about the quarterback.
So imagine that, a Texas high school quarterback who's going to Texas Tech to play.
Yeah, a lot bigger scale.
Yeah, Snit said, we asked him what his big league, that kind of this is it, big league moment that day was, when he went, because he said when he went out, you could tell that he's talked to Charlie because Charlie's told these kids, I hope they're taking it all in because he goes, I didn't do that in my first appearance. I hope they're taking it all in. So this kid said he goes out there and he's looking around the whole thing going, this is it. He's kind of looking around the ballpark, noticing everything. So, but because Charlie stressed how much he wished he had enjoyed it because he can hardly remember anything from his debut.
That's how I am.
Right. So this kid said, but he said the moment, though, if there was one moment, he said it was actually when Snit comes out to grab the ball.
Yep.
And say, that's because that's when you go, okay, wow, there we go. We got the job done. Gave us a chance to stay in the ball game. That's where it's at.
Do you know the only moment I took like that was after my last game? Because I knew the clock was ticking and I'd given up like 6 or 8 to the Mets. And I just kind of walked off the field because this is probably the last time you're seeing this, buddy. It's pretty freaking cool. But, your career and the pressure and everything going on, it's so much to handle and take in. You almost want to be absent-minded. Yeah. And then it's just a blur and it's over. So it's got to come from a guy like Charlie that's done it that long. But I can relate to that so much, what he's saying, of even, hardly even remember it because you're so just laser focused on getting what you have to get done today.
Yeah.
that you wind up not ever taking in how cool it is what you're doing until it's over.
All right. Well, they're off to Detroit. That's a series they'll if they don't win, something went really awry. They'll try to sweep. That's always hard to sweep anybody, though. It's one of those only times during the year, they only do it a couple times, where they go somewhere and just play one series and come home. So it's 3 games there and then back for the Phillies. So it'll be a good week for the Braves to really make some hay. They play well, and we'll see these young guys start again. It's going to be interesting to see the second start for Smith-Shawver. I'm really looking forward to seeing that one.
Yeah.
And seeing how Strider rebounds from a bad start for him. I got a feeling he's going to come out and strike out about 14.
Yeah.
It's going to have a big one. All right. 7:55 is real, and we will be back in a few days. Thanks, everybody. We appreciate it.